We'll give it a second to start, and I think we are ready to go. Welcome. Hello, everybody. Welcome to our Confessions from Our Clergy Spouses, an interview with the better halves. Here they are. So I am thrilled and grateful to all of the spouses for being here with us today. I think we are going to have a great interview and get to know all of you a little bit better and maybe hear some secrets about your spouses. So thank you for being here with us. We're going to just get started, and I'm going to have everyone go around and introduce yourselves and maybe tell us how long you've been around at Temple, and we'll kind of go from there. So thank you to all of you. It's my most favorite 7 people in all of Temple right here with me. So I'm really excited, and thank you. Ryan, why don't we start with you?
Ryan Klusny, married to Rabbi Jennifer Klusny, if that wasn't obvious. So Jen and I got married in 07, so it's been, I guess, 13 years, which is crazy. I can't believe it. Yeah, and then obviously Temple's been part of my life with Jen for all that time. I knew Temple. I didn't belong growing up, but I did grow up in the Metro Detroit area. But I won't say where I used to go. I don't want to cause any problems.
Thanks, Ryan. Excellent. Okay, how about Stephanie?
I'm Stephanie Michaels, and I'm married to Neil, and we have been at Temple Israel since December 2002. Does that sound right? Yeah. So coming up on 18 years, craziness. It's amazing, and it's, obviously something, there's the whole story there of falling into Temple in the way that we did, and with Rabbi Loss kind of bringing us in. It was all sort of a wonderful surprise, and we always like to think that so much in our life was totally beshert, and this was definitely, and it's been an amazing journey for us, and a gift to be able to raise our kids here and be part of this great big family.
I love that. Some people may not know the story. Do you want to quickly tell us the story?
Sure. So many years ago, Neil and I met at Juilliard. We both are singers, and so we met there years ago, but he actually had a girlfriend when I first met him. Okay. And I was a freshman, and he is a few years older than I am. So my first year at Juilliard was his last year there. He was actually moving on. He went to Curtis in Philadelphia, where he continued his grad work. And so when I met him, we were in one class, and I had one of my best friends sitting next to me, and I said, "That guy is totally my type." Then I found out he was dating someone. But 2 years later, we both did a program in Italy in the summer, and suddenly there he was again. And, walking across the piazza, I went up to him, I gave him a big hug, and I, with a different friend, went in the bathroom and said, "Don't touch him, he's mine." And so that was many years ago, because we dated for 6 years before we got married. And then when we were getting married, I was from Michigan, Neil's from Toronto, and we were planning our wedding. We weren't exactly sure how everything was going down. We went to Lee's Specialty to look at wedding invitations, and this amazing girl there was a member of Temple, and she said, "Have you ever been to Temple Israel? You have to meet Rabbi Loss." And so we had an amazing conversation with her, and all of a sudden we found ourselves making an appointment to meet Rabbi Loss, and that's how everything unfolded. We went in for our wedding appointment. He called in all the clergy and said, "This is going to be our new cantor." We were still living in New York at the time. We had our apartment there. We had just come back to plan the wedding, and I was doing theater in Ann Arbor, and Neil was doing theater in Canada. And it was this crazy turn of events. I remember very much when we wound up going to a Kol Nidre service to sort of see what is this place all about, right? And we obviously had no clue and showed up kind of late-ish, I guess. Not late, but not early enough for a High Holy Day service, right? And we wound up sitting in the front row. And Paul was sermonizing, and he walked down in front of the pulpit and everything and was on the steps, and we're like, this place is cool. We've never seen anything like this. And then we went in, and we loved the service, and we went in, and Neil ended up singing for the clergy and then the exec, and it just sort of happened very quickly. So
divine intervention.
crazy. Yeah.
Well, we're so glad that you're here 18 years later. What a gift.
Thank you, Kari. Thank you.
Well,
That's
Shosh, we might as well go to you.
Okay. I'm Susan Loss. I'm married to Rabbi Harold Loss for 45 years. And are we going right into like how we met, or?
Sure, why not?
Want to do that? Okay.
Yeah.
We met when I was wearing a jacket with an Old English sheepdog patch on the shoulder. We both had Old English sheepdogs. It's Bashir. And it was at the JCC in Oak Park. And we met that day. And 6 months later, I signed up for an advanced Hebrew class, and he happened to be one of the instructors. And the rest is history.
The rest is history. That's amazing. Lots of divine intervention all over. Jen?
My name is Jen Green, and I'm married to Michael Smolash. And we've been at Temple for 16 years. I come from Toronto, Michael comes from Montreal. And I don't know, Temple has been home for a long, long time now. Yeah.
I love it.
How come all these Canadians?
Right? We have lots of good Canadian representation. Meg?
Let's see, I'm Meg Bennett. I'm married to Rabbi Josh Bennett, and we've been married 25 years. We've been at Temple 25 years. We both moved here before we got married, and we got married 8 months later. And we've been here a really long time, and we're about to celebrate our 25th year, so it's exciting.
Very exciting. Mazel tov.
Thank you.
Sheldon?
Well, I started with Temple actually when I was a resident in 1984, and I ended up divorced. And around the time that Rabbi Marla, I'm sorry, my name's Sheldon Stern. I'm married to Rabbi Marla Hornstein. So as Marla was starting with Temple, Rabbi Yedwab came to me and said, we've got this new rabbi. And he said, I think it's somebody you should take a look at. And I thought, well, she's awful young. Meanwhile, he had talked to her, and he said, I've got this guy. He's divorced. He's got 2 kids, but they're great kids. And I think, she said, no, I'm not really interested. So he put us on a committee together. And kind of simultaneous with that, my then ex-wife and I were at High Holiday services, and she elbowed me in the arm and said, you should take a look at this rabbi. And I said, she's awful young. She said, don't be so quick to write her off. So between the getting to know each other on the committee and getting a lot of encouragement from both sides. Now, Marla doesn't like it, but I always joke that part of her contract was that they needed to find a husband for her so she would stay in the Detroit area. So I wasn't really contracted.
They did a good job.
So we actually got married in 2002, just before the Michaels joined up with Temple. And actually, it's funny. I was thinking about family camp too, because one of my first family camps was actually with the Bennetts,
Yep.
who were newly married.
Yep.
And Meg actually tried to teach us how to do the what do you call that, snake or something?
Oh, yeah. Snake.
Yeah, I never quite got the hang of it.
We'll
You
work
wanna try again, Meg?
on. No, thank you.
Yeah, okay. And Wendy, did you have any part in this?
No, Paul was the
Oh,
matchmaker.
Paul.
Yeah.
Okay, well, tell
He's
us
the
about you. Tell us about you, Wendy.
So Wendy Yedwab, married to Rabbi Paul Yedwab. We just celebrated on Sunday our 34th wedding anniversary. And we've actually been here 35 years. We got married a month before we came here. So we went through the interview process together, and we both, chose Temple. And so we got married, and boom, we came here. And I'll just go into how we met. We both were at Kutz Camp back in, I think it was 78. I was 16, Paul was 21. I was a camper, he was a head RA, and adorable. And I was just so smitten by him. So we flirted the whole month, and both of us pretty much fell for each other in a very, I was 16, so, but we both sort of always had this sort of feeling that we were hoping we'd see each other again sometime in our life. And so fast forward 5 years later, we met each other again. We connected again. He called my mom to find out where I was, and she said, "We've heard about you for 5 years. When are we going to get to meet you?" And he's sort of like, I'm available on Thanksgiving. So we hadn't seen each other in a long time, and he actually came to Oklahoma on Thanksgiving with my whole family. That was not great, but it turned into something great. That was so that's where we are.
It's amazing. How many of you went to camp? Did all of you go to camp?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, so we know, Wendy, you have a URJ background in Kutz, and where else did you go?
Me?
Yeah.
There was a girls' camp in Maryland, Camp Louise, but really my life was mostly the Reform Movement's camp.
Okay, great. Meg, how about you?
I went to Gucci, and that's where I met Josh. I was 18 and he was 21. And we dated for 8 years actually before we got married, but we met at camp, and I love Gucci. I went there, I think, for like 11 years. My family had a long history there, and so did his. And I actually knew both of his brothers before I knew him, because I knew them from camp. So, and his older brother, Jim, knew me when I was 5 years old because of my older siblings who were going to camp. So we have a very long history.
Lots of connections.
Mhm.
That's great. Jen, how about you?
Yeah, we also met at summer camp. We met at a Habonim Dror, which is a labor Zionist youth movement in Ontario, sort of rural camp at the time. And Michael's 4 years older than me, so he was dating my favorite camp counselor at the time, who I loved, who was really a mentor for me. And then, lost track of each other for years and met again in a dance class.
Excellent. Excellent. Ryan, how about you? Were you a camper?
I was a camper, but not a huge camper. I went to Tall Timbers one year. I went to Tamarack for a year. When I was a little older, I went more, and I enjoyed it more than when I was young. I should say, I didn't talk about it before, I do kind of have to credit Temple with my relationship with Jen, because we were introduced by Amy Finsilver, who at the time, I had a little house in Royal Oak, and it was kind of a running joke because I lived there for quite a while, and I had a lot of roommates, and I would just marry off all my roommates. And she lived with me for a year, I think around a year, and she's the one that introduced Jen and I to each other. So, through Temple. I also have to credit Seth Faber, because Jen was kind of asking around for more information on me, and Seth's one of my best friends, and he also was at Temple, and put in a good word for me. So
He confirmed you were okay.
yeah.
Excellent. Excellent. And Steph, I know Juilliard, did you go to camp?
I went to Interlochen
Oh,
music camp, right?
Yeah.
Actually, Neil's whole family went through Interlochen as well. But it was the whole thing that we were always missing each other because he is also 3 years older than I am. So
He was always one step ahead.
yeah, everywhere. I was following him.
Everywhere. That's great. And all your kids are campers, right? Everybody, kids, grandchildren, everybody.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
Up
amazing.
until this year, unfortunately.
Yeah.
Very sad this year. Very sad.
Yeah. Yeah, I was a Tamarack kid. I went all the way through till I went into high school with camp. So those are good years. So
Really
my Blazer 6 points that the Bennett's got us into.
It's always the Bennetts with you people. Yeah.
Those Bennett.
It was the Yedwabs. It was the Yedwabs when it came to Camp George. My girls both went to Camp George. So, and in fact, when Benji was real young, my daughters were up at Camp George, and we took Benji up. Actually, while she was pregnant with Danny. Now that I think about it, so I got a chance to actually see the camp. It's a beautiful camp.
Mm-hmm.
It is magnificent. That Canadian beauty, right?
Mhm.
It is magnificent. Yeah. Yeah, we are very sad that we're not going to be there this summer, but 2021 is going to be great. So we're looking forward to it. Okay, so let's see. I want to talk about your weddings and what they look like. And so who wants to start? Tell us about your wedding.
I have.
Okay, go ahead, Shosh.
So we were married in the Schmear Chapel at Temple Israel, Palmer Park. Week before our wedding, I threw a pulmonary embolism up in the hospital. And the day before our wedding, the doctors decided to let me out because we were kind of pushing for it. And I was a nurse and they knew me. So I left the hospital with a port in my arm. And I had one day to get a little bit of rest, a little bit of sun, and then the next day was the ceremony. So we had a small ceremony in the Schmear Chapel. And then we went into the Herman Hall. I'm not sure what it was at that point. Can't remember. So anyway, we went in, Sisterhood went into the social hall, and the Sisterhood did an ONIC for us. We had a small ceremony, but they invited the entire congregation to this kind of ONIG open house thing. And because I had a port in my arm, I was seated the entire time. I felt like kind of like an old frumpy queen sitting in the wheelchair, but it worked out great. And we got the next day, Carol left for Israel with 45 teenagers. My mother-in-law stayed with me, and a week later I flew to Israel and joined him. And the rest is history.
The rest is history. Beautiful. Jen, how about you?
Oh, I feel like my wedding says everything about Temple Israel, because Michael and I got married in Toronto. You know, we'd been planning it for a year, however long we'd been together, for 4 years and whatnot. And we were back and forth to Temple Israel interviewing and, you know, deciding to get the job and then looking for spaces here as it became clear that this was going to be our future home. So we invited the executive at Temple Israel, and the entire executive came to our wedding in Toronto. The Finsilvers, Nordy and Cherry Stern, the Whitefields were there, the Weinbergs, the Royals. Oh, yes, the Clergy came. We had like tables and tables of Temple Israel. And I remember, you know, being understandably nervous moving to this new country, to this new community that I don't know, and feeling like, wow, this is how these people roll. This is how this community rolls. They schlep their cookies 5 hours to go to a wedding, like so much commitment, you know? And so it was just the most amazing welcome to the family, and really, I think, reflects so much about how committed the clergy is, and the executive are, I mean, amazing lay leadership, and just so warm and loving.
Very warm and embracing. Wendy.
I'll tell one thing. So we got married in Baltimore. Long story. That's where I was originally from. We lived in New York. My parents in Oklahoma, but we were in Baltimore down at the Harbor Place. And it was a lovely wedding. We had a lot of rabbinical students, whatever, but we did have clergy. The Losses were there. Cantor Orbach and Evie were there. And what's so funny is, so we're under the chuppah. My father-in-law is a rabbi, so he's the one marrying us. And at some point, so we're under the chuppah, and he's talking to us. And at some point, we had given Cantor Orbach a part. So he makes his way up under the chuppah. Well, my mother-in-law had no idea who this man was. And he's trying to get up there, and she's like pushing him, like, why are you here? And then all of a sudden he comes out with his huge voice, you know, and then I think she's like, oh, okay, I think I got it. So that's just a little funny.
Meg, how about you?
I'm from Louisville, Kentucky, so we got married in Louisville, and similar to Jen, we had a lot of people from Temple Israel come, which was wonderful. And I really wanted to show the people from Michigan especially, and anyone from out of town, Kentucky, and I really love the horse track. So we took everybody to the horse track. We went to Churchill Downs. I think we had 90 people. And unfortunately, Josh's mom had passed away prior to this. So we gave everybody 2 brand new crisp dollar bills, and we said to please make your first bet, and anything that you win or whatever you want, your winnings will go to, I think it was the National Kidney Foundation, because she had received a kidney transplant. So we gave, I think I can't remember how much it was, but it was a lot of money to the National Kidney Foundation. It was a lot of fun. I think everybody really enjoyed the track. And I believe it was Jeff Lieb won like a trifecta, and he still talks about it to this day. And I think the thing people speak about our wedding, the thing they talk about the most is going to Churchill Downs. It was fun. We had a really good time.
It's a great memory. Temple definitely knows how to represent, right?
Yes, absolutely.
Sure.
They really
You
do.
were taking a gamble getting married to Josh. Everybody else was placing bets.
Yep, exactly.
That's so true, Sheldon. Sheldon, tell us about your wedding.
So Rabbi Marla's from Seattle. So, you know, I had already been married. I didn't really think about doing another big wedding, but this was Marla's only wedding, and her parents really wanted it to be, and it was a beautiful wedding. We got married at the temple that she grew up in. We had about, 30 clergy. No, we had 6 clergy on the bima with us. We had Rabbi Loss and Rabbi Bennett, Cantor Corson, one of Marla's classmates from rabbinic school. What's that?
I think we were there too.
Yeah. Oh, I'm sorry. Did I say Bennett? No, it's Yedwab and Loss. Bennett's couldn't be there because Josh was doing a tract wedding, I think, the night before ours, or maybe even the same night. I'm sorry. No, this was because Paul, having introduced us, was the lead rabbi at the wedding, and then there was the rabbi that was at the temple that she grew up in, and then one of her classmates, and then the reception was at Marina, overlooking. There are locks that go into Puget Sound from Lake Washington, and it's just beautiful. So it looked out onto all the masts swaying in the water, and actually, kind of a side note, Seattle's known for all its rain, and so August, it turns out, is the driest month of the year, and it's a very dry month. It's only like a 1/4 inch of rain average for the month of August. So, they did all these things based on beautiful weather. So the few days before the wedding, my former sister-in-law, who was kind of known for not being the most pleasant person to deal with, had called and said, "I heard it's going to rain. How should we dress?" And of course, Marla, who's so excited about the wedding, started to get really. I said, "Stop." it's not going to rain on Sunday. Okay. Consider the source. And sure enough, it was absolutely beautiful. And we had just a lovely wedding, and the setting was perfect. And then we came back here.
I love it. Great. Steph, how about you?
So because we had been planning the wedding before we started, Neil started working at Temple, we ended up getting married in Birmingham. But the most amazing thing, and still something that our family talks about and Neil remembers as one of his favorite moments ever, was on the Friday night, we did our off roof at Temple. It was a gorgeous outdoor service. We had been, when we first moved back here, we moved into Aldingbrook. And so we were living there, and we, around the pool at the clubhouse there, Matt Prentice came and did a whole barbecue, which was so fun. And then everyone came to Temple for this amazing outdoor service. The Simone Vitale band was playing the service, and it was just so cool, beautiful night. And, you know, all of our, Neil obviously has a ton of out of town family. And so they talk about this, you know, wedding and how that, you know, night was so special. And they've talked about it for years. So, and it was amazing. It was very special too, to have all of these people who we had just met suddenly be, you know, such a close part of our lives. And so amazing, like what the whirlwind of what that was, which I know you all can relate to.
It was a great beginning.
You were talking about the Ufruf. So those outdoor weddings, they kind of bring in all the Ufruf couples, all the wedding couples up at one time. So our Ufruf, there were 3 other couples, you know, coming up at the same time. And we went back to sit down, and one of my friends leaned over and said to me, "You did a really good job of trying to look as young as those other people up there."
That's great.
Nice. Ryan.
Well, I think everybody here was actually at our wedding, so you all remember it. Obviously, it was at a little place called Temple Israel, and I knew not only that I marrying Jen, I knew I was marrying the Temple family and the clergy, and you know, I knew what I was getting into, and it was the best decision I've ever made in my life. So.
Aw, I love it. That's great.
And you're not just saying that because this is going on tape for
Right.
I didn't even know this was being recorded.
What are you talking about? Okay, now we're going to get into, think about what your most favorite story is about your spouse. So it could be as a clergy, it could be as a parent, it could be as a spouse. Pull something really good out. Okay, Wendy.
This is just to sort of show you a little bit about who Paul is. So in our relationship, and you know, as many of you know, Paul does not like to not win an argument. He likes to be the one that wins. So in our relationship, though, we always laugh that he always wins the arguments, but I always get my way. And just an example is when we were redoing this house, we moved into Kego Harbor into a condo. And in the condo, they had cable. We've never had cable before, and TV wasn't something we had put TV just down in the exercise room. So we had it, and then we were using it, and we were liking it. And so when we were building this house, I said, I think we really should do cable. And Paul was very adamant, we're not doing cable. And he had all these great reasons, you know, it's not for the kids, it's not good for us. We want to do experiences. And he sold me. I was like, sure, that makes sense. Okay. And of course we move into the house like after the day or two after we had this conversation, and little did I know he had just called Comcast, and here they show up and he's putting in cable. So, you know, and he wins me over to his side. I mean, he's really good at that. And then I get my way. So that's kind of the funny thing that's ongoing with us.
Now, Wendy, be honest. Did he think it was your way, or did he think he had the idea of getting cake?
I think he knew that it was my way.
He's a good husband.
He's a good husband.
Who else has a story they want to share?
I'll jump in.
Oh,
So I have a lot of them because we've got years under us. But this was really one of the funniest and most recent. Early on the coronavirus scare, we started ordering our food, and Harold's a very organized and controlling kind of person, so he took over the orders. He'd be up at 3 o'clock in the morning changing things. I mean, just crazy. So one of the early orders from Kroger's, he didn't know that you had to be close to your phone all the time, because if an item was unavailable, they would switch it and they'd let you know. Well, he had no idea, and I guess he turned his phone off, I don't know what. So our first order shows up from Kroger's, and it sits in the garage for a while, and then he gets his other gloves on and cleans it again and then brings it into the house. I mean, it's like a 4-day ordeal with him. So he brings it in and we start looking at the different things. There is a ham in there. And like, ham? What's this? And we now go back and look at the order. We ordered chicken unavailable. So they substituted ham. Well, the two of us were hysterical. We couldn't stop laughing. This was just way too funny. And we were lucky we got rid of it. I called my neighbor, do you eat ham? Yes, of course. I put it in a bag, hunted over the back fence, and they came and got it a little while later. That's one for the books that we will never forget.
I love that. Meg.
There's probably a million stories, honestly, and I can't say this, it's not necessarily my favorite, but it was definitely funny. And I guess it was sort of him as a rabbi, as himself, and also as a dad. So he was doing something for the preschool, and Zachary was in preschool. And so he decided, for some reason, he dressed up as a Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle. So he's all dressed up and he's so excited to see Zach because, you know, Zach just loved the Ninja Turtles and this was going to be so exciting. And Zach comes in and he's like terrified and he starts screaming and he's, you know, he doesn't want to be anywhere near him. He starts crying. And so Josh, thinking he's going to, you know, ease this pain, lifts up the head. And so he still has the costume on, but like lifts up the head. And Zachary immediately starts screaming, "The turtle ate my daddy! The turtle ate my daddy!" And I just got a real kick out of that. It's hilarious.
He had really good intentions, right?
He really did.
I love it. I think Rabbi Lost had some experiences like that too with the grandchildren.
Did.
Yes, yes. Jen, what did you want to share?
I was going to say, so, you know, as I think most people are aware, Michael's had a spiritual awakening or a focus on Kabbalah for a number of years now and really found his passion there and meditating. And so all of these things have been happening over these years. I mean, so many stories, you can't even make this stuff up, right? But one that happened recently, just before Corona, was when Michael was coming back from the APAC convention. He sat on the plane next to this lovely young woman from LA who's with this charity that builds bomb shelters in northern Israel where they need, you know, more bomb shelters. And they announced the flight was super delayed coming back from APAC, and she was missing her flight. And so, you know, she was all upset, and he was being nice, and she's kosher, and they want to, you know, she's got nowhere to stay in Detroit. And by the time the plane landed, I think it was 11 o'clock at night. So Michael said, "I know this is weird, but you're welcome to stay at our house." And she's vegetarian. You know, we have vegetarian kosher food. You know, call your mom. This is my wife. Call your wife. So I'm speaking to this young girl. Anyways, long story short, Michael drives her back from the airport. She sleeps over. She eats with us. He drives her to the airport early in the morning to catch her next flight out. And a day later, we're working out at Jody and Andy Bean's house. And this is where, because they have a gym in their basement and we use the same personal trainer. So we're working out there and we get this call from LA. and it's the head of the organization that the young woman who was with calling to thank Michael and to let him know that, he's got family in the Detroit area, the Beans. And
Oh my gosh.
we're in their house.
Crazy.
So these are like the 2 degrees or 1 degree of separation. These things just keep happening to us. And, we're where we're meant to be, right?
Yeah.
That's true in every moment at all times, but there's times like that where it becomes so apparent that you're meant to do this action to help in this way. Yeah, it's just funny.
Wow.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Sheldon, tell us a story about Rabbi Marla.
So Marla was 7.5 months pregnant, and pretty obviously pregnant. We were at the Labor Day picnic, and it's very hot. And there was a little girl with a big ice cream cone and big eyes, and she looked at Marla and she said, "I know what you're going to have." And so Marla, squatted down and she said, "What do you think I'm going to have?" She said, "You're going to have a boy or a girl."
Very intuitive.
And she was right.
Definitely going to be one or the other, right?
100% right.
Sheldon, my favorite story that I remember that I think your wife told my wife, who told me, was that one of your boys, I can't remember which, somebody asked, what did he want to be when he grows up? And did he want to be a rabbi? And he said, "No, I can't be a rabbi. I'm a boy."
Actually, my recollection was it was actually Paul Yudwab said, "Do you want to be a rabbi?" Like you said, "Do you want to be a rabbi?" And he said, "I'm not a girl."
Even better.
That's funny.
Even better. Ryan, tell us a Jen Kaluzny story.
Well, it's kind of hard for me to come up with one. This isn't really a funny story, but it just kind of shows what it's like, I think, being a rabbi and then also being married to a rabbi. She's so busy all the time and just missing out on things. Like we went to the 06 playoff game, the Tigers against Oakland. And I think it was game 5, and Jen had to leave early because I can't remember. It might have been a Jewish holiday. I can't remember the reason. But so this is also insight into the Tisdales, because they came and picked her up from Tiger Stadium so I could stay for the game. And I'm like, "No, I'll take you home. We'll just go." "No, you stay." And that was the game when Magler Ordonez hit the walk-off home, send them to the World Series. So I was glad I stayed, but I felt bad because Jen missed it. Just like when we were in APAC, she had to leave early, and it was in 08, and she missed Barack Obama speaking. So the life of a rabbi. But I stayed. So there are good perks to being married to a rabbi.
Absolutely. Stephanie, how about you?
Well, I was thinking about that when I'm just sort of listening to what everyone's saying. And I think we've probably all done the crazy car rides where you are picking them up from one wedding to get to another, or like you have to go out of town, they finish their funeral and you're ready to drive. Your car's like packed with all the stuff. So those are definitely some, memories I was thinking about when Ryan was talking. And when Meg was talking about the costumes, it made me remember, you guys know I like parties, right? And when the kids were growing up, every year I love to do like a big birthday party. And, I would do all the details because obviously Neil is busy, but every year he had to wear a costume at this party. And it didn't matter what the theme was, there was going to be a costume involved, and he was going to wear it and show up, and it was going to be ridiculous, and he was going to have to do some sort of routine. So like, we had a Alice in Wonderland tea party, and he was the Mad Hatter, and he had to, lead them all in, song. And then we did a lot of them at Temple Israel, and he would have to lead the the children all around the building on like a scavenger hunt or something like that. So, you know, I got back at him for not, you know, being able to plan the parties. He had to do his part in the end anyway.
Love it. Great stories. So not only are they amazing spouses, but amazing parents as well, and wonderful clergy. So I know our clergy very well. I've worked with all of them. I've been at Temple for almost 24 years, so I came right after Josh. And I know that they are all crazy and busy, and they want to be everything to everyone and be there for our members and even people who are not our members. And they do, they drop everything, and we love that about them. But I'm sure having them home every day during this pandemic has really changed the way your house looks, because most of you aren't really used to having them home so much, I would imagine. So tell us, how are you managing? How is it going? It's been 12 weeks that we've been in our houses. I know they leave, thank God, to go do funerals, and they're there for our families, but it must look different in your houses. And how are the kids dealing with it? Tell us what's going on.
Well, we live our lives now on Zoom. So, you know, Marla is either tucked away in her office, or now she's figured out a way to go onto the patio and do Zoom, but she's in front of the camera, it seems like, for hours at a time. I don't know how you guys are doing with all the taping for the services and stuff, but, you know, I've become a stand for holding sermons. I've become a critique for camera angles and lighting.
Fixing the collars.
Yeah.
Lots of beard fixing. Lots of beard fixing.
And we don't do the beard fixing on Marla.
Right.
You don't have to cut hair either, do you?
Clearly not. Well, actually, that's not true. Not for Marla, but for Danny. You know, Danny, we take the shears to him. So
I just gave Neil a haircut this weekend because they were filming. And so if you like the haircut this week, you know.
Ayla's our in-house hairdresser. She's doing the whole family now.
Ooh, that's nice.
Goodness. And I swear it's the best haircuts Michael's ever had. She says, so I said that to her, and, you know, as a compliment, I'm always trying to be so positive. She looks at me. Well, it's not like I don't have to look at him all the time. Which is true. We get all this family time together with Corona. That's true.
That's the silver lining.
That is the one thing that has been really nice about Corona, is that Josh has been home for dinner every single night, and that's very rare. I'm sure all of you agree. That's one thing the rabbis don't make dinner a whole lot of the time. So I will say that has been the nicest thing about Corona, is having Josh home every single night and having a family dinner every single night with all of us.
Amen.
Amen.
Totally.
We have to find the little silver linings.
We have this one quick thing. So Michael, the downstairs of our basement is now a full recording studio with, you know, video editing equipment in a circle around the chair. And I do dance classes now almost every day, which is a silver lining for me, but I stomp above. So we have to talk, sort of have to like negotiate which class can I go to. Isn't it nice to have family time, right?
Yeah. Well, same here. We have to, you know, I'm teaching today from, 12 to 3. What time do you need to record? You know, it's always juggling, but I have loved it. I've loved being here and being with my kids and being with Neil. And, they were doing recording yesterday, and Neil called on his way home and he said, I missed you today. It's so strange because we've become, this is our new normal, right? So we're so used to just being there with each other, which has been, I know many people are itching to get out and do stuff, but I've actually really loved having this time.
I love it. It's like recoupling. It's right. You're finding out all these amazing, wonderful things. It's great. I love that.
I don't know how they do all the Zoom meetings though.
Oh, crazy.
It's constant.
It is crazy.
Mhm.
Got the same issue. It's the Zoom, it's the videos, phone calls to congregants. It's like nonstop. But this is, I mean, it's kind of normal for him anyway. But we've made it work. And in the afternoons, I read to all of our grandkids on FaceTime or Zoom. And he was reading, and now the older boys have decided they don't want to read anymore, so they're playing poker together.
Oh,
On FaceTime. And it's, you know what, it's hysterical, but it's great that we're spending time with these kids, those that live not far from us in Huntington Woods and those that are in New Jersey. So it's great. It's a
When
good-
they get really good at that, then they go to Churchill Downs and put bets on horses.
We're learning. That's fabulous. Okay, one more question and we'll wrap it up because I so appreciate all of you taking the time to do this. So tell us either your spouse's most annoying habit, and if you don't want to throw them under the bus, their most guilty pleasure.
There are so many to choose from. I just don't know where to start.
You're talking about the guilty pleasures, right?
Oh, right.
That's
Yeah.
Josh's
Yeah,
one.
pleasure, whichever one. Right. Yeah.
I don't hear it all, ever.
I have to tell you, Josh's most annoying habit, of course, I have to go for the annoying habit.
Of course.
He snores louder than a Mack truck. I'm not even kidding. And my whole family complains about it. So even Maddie, and all the way in the back of the house, complains about Josh's snoring. So I've got to say, that takes the cake for him.
Excellent.
Yeah, Marla too. No, I'm kidding. No, I'm the guilty party there, I'm afraid.
I'll go with guilty pleasure. I mean, none of Neil's habits are too annoying. I wish I could say there was something really that gets me, but it's not too bad. But guilty pleasure, he has a lot of things that I'm sort of like, really? You like that? He likes playing, all the sort of billiard type games, right? Like pool and ping pong. But the weird thing is, I find it very bizarre. He likes ping pong on his phone. Which to me seems so strange. Like, how is that even interesting? So he loves to stay up late at night and watch movies, especially when they're normally working and doing rehearsals and stuff till 9. He might stay up easily to at least 1. And he watches movies and he's playing his ping pong while he does it. And he's like in a tournament with a live person on his phone playing ping pong. So
Do you have a
that's
ping
very-
pong table? Does he play real ping pong?
Last year for Father's Day, I actually got him one. It's an indoor-outdoor, so it's cool. You can play it outside.
Very
Yeah.
I'm
Don't-
usually up late playing ping pong on my phone, so maybe.
Oh no! He didn't have to hit you up.
With Neil?
Maybe he already plays you. You probably have some secret code name.
Code ping pong.
I don't know if it's really a guilt. I'm not sure if it's a guilty pleasure. I'll just say, I think a pleasure for Paul with some of the time that he's had now. He's an amazing cook, and he's the kind of cook who he can open the fridge. I'll say there is nothing to eat, and he will open the fridge and he will make a gourmet meal. And he's always been able to do that. But I think now with Corona and being home, even if he's meeting all the time, he can run for 5 minutes to the kitchen and he has made, one night we're having Ethiopian and one night it's a whole Asian fare and homemade pastas. And, so it's like, honestly, yesterday he was working forever, didn't have a break. I should have probably cooked dinner that night, but I'm sort of now paralyzed by not being able to do anything because he makes everything. He just whips it up. Sometimes it seems like nothing. And so it's like, no, I didn't really think about dinner tonight, hon. Sorry.
You're getting used to it. You're
I'm
spoiled.
very used to it.
We're lucky. Harold, his big thing is he likes to organize. He creates schedules. He creates charts. It's not that it's annoying, but sometimes it gets to be over the top. So I've got a chart in here what we're going to eat every day at each meal. What are our chores every single day? I mean, it's like crazy.
Are they color coded? Does he color code them?
No, because it's really for
Sam
me.
wouldn't know how much.
It's more of a list of things for you to do, Shosh.
It's both
More
of
of a honey-do list.
That's what the order from Kroger though. So he's checking all his boxes, right?
Now he's like up at 3 in the morning checking it and 4 in the morning. I mean, it's crazy. We haven't gotten anything weird since that first hand.
The ham.
Jen or Sheldon or Ryan.
Well, what we do for our guilt, well, so we share a guilty pleasure, which is kind of awesome because both Michael and I love board games, which is sort of a funny, unexpected thing. And we don't have a TV in our space, and we're not into a lot of other things that other people are in, but thankfully we're both really into board games. So we went through a long Catan run, and now we're on Carcassonne.
Ooh.
And so Carcassonne's good because it's a 15-20 minute game. So we'll be working on stuff and, kind of regroup in the middle of the day. Like, should we do a Carcassonne game? Yes. We'll go have our little game and then have to go back to our work. But it's fun and silly and light.
And a good outlet. That's great. Ryan.
Well, I'm gonna go with guilty pleasure. Sometimes after long days, it's just like you need to, and I'm the same way too, just need to like get the kids to bed and kind of veg out and put something on TV. But some of the shows she likes are not really for me. Some of the Bravo shows, the 90 Day Fiance, that kind of stuff. Not for me, but she enjoys that. So that, and probably, some good murder, like a documentary or podcast on like true crime or something. Yeah.
Excellent. Good way to unwind.
Yes.
Marla's a Trekkie. She loves Star Trek and Next Generation, and I don't even know all the different ones. But in her defense, I will say she usually finds a Jewish lesson in each episode. There's some value in each episode that she can relate to Judaism.
Ooh,
So she's doing her thing.
amazing.
Why does it have to be in her defense? You can't just enjoy it?
Yes, she could. She would just enjoy it, but I get the Jewish lesson.
Ryan does
This
that,
episode.
right? Ryan, you go around Comic-Con and you find all those Jewish lessons in there.
Oh yeah, I have a whole room in my house.
Hey, we're not talking about your guilty pleasures, okay?
All right. Is there anything that anyone wants to add? Any little tidbits?
I'd like to say that since becoming part of the Clergy family, I've realized it's an amazing group, and I love, I miss the services because I used to see you guys regularly, and now it's I watch you on the screen like everybody else, and I miss that. But it's really been, it's both been welcoming, and it's also been very comforting, just to know that we've got this support system there for all of us.
Agreed.
I can tell you that
Well said. Well said.
Well said.
would be where they are without all of you supporting and backing and loving them. And I know sometimes those days are hard and trying, and you're all amazing. And Meg, Mazel Tov, 25 years, really almost 26, right?
Thank you. Yeah, 26.
Incredible.
Thank you.
So Mazel Tov, and thank you all for being here with us. We all appreciate it, and we all love you. So thank you.
Thank you,
Thank you for
Kari.
having us.
Great, thanks for
Bye,
having
everybody.
me.
Thank you. Everyone take good care. Stay healthy and safe and sane.
You
Yes.
too.
See
The
you
sanity
later.
may be a little late for the sanity part.
Exactly.
Bye, everybody.
Bye. Bye.
Hey,
Uh,
nice seeing everybody.